In a world that never stops talking, true power lies in silence. The Stoics knew this well. They believed that mastering your emotions begins not with speaking, but with listening, observing, and understanding. We are constantly bombarded with noise, opinions, judgments, distractions. But what if the greatest strength is found in restraint? What if silence is not weakness, but wisdom? Picture yourself in the heat of an argument. One person yells, fueled by impulse. The other remains calm, composed, unwavering. Who truly holds the power? The one who reacts, or the one who controls their response? This is the essence of emotional mastery, the ability to step back, reflect, and choose your actions wisely. Silence isn't weakness, it's the ultimate strength. And once you harness it, you gain control not just over your emotions, but over your entire life. Seneca once said, "Silence is a lesson learned through the many sufferings of life." True mastery of emotions is not in reacting to everything, but in choosing when to respond and when to let silence speak for itself. Imagine a leader who commands respect not by shouting, but by pausing before they speak. Think of a warrior who stays calm in the face of provocation, unshaken by the chaos around them. The ability to remain silent in the right moments is the mark of true strength. Today, we explore the power of silence, how it transforms relationships, strengthens the mind, and gives you ultimate control over your emotions. In a world that demands a reaction, the wisest move is often to say nothing. Ready to master your emotions? Let's begin. Number 1. Practice the pause. Practicing the pause is an art of self-mastery, a discipline that allows you to regain control over emotions before reacting impulsively. In a world filled with chaos, conflicts, and misunderstandings, the ability to pause before responding can be the difference between wisdom and regret. The Stoics believed that emotions, particularly anger and frustration, were within our control, and our reactions were a choice rather than a compulsion. The philosopher Epictetus famously said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." This means that external circumstances and people do not hold power over your emotions unless you allow them to. The provocation itself is powerless unless you surrender to it. By practicing the pause, you reclaim that power, giving yourself a moment to reflect, to breathe, and to choose a response that aligns with reason rather than impulse. A powerful example of this principle in action is Abraham Lincoln. Throughout his presidency, Lincoln faced relentless criticism, insults, and political opposition. Instead of reacting in anger, he was known for writing hot letters filled with frustration and criticism, only to leave them unsent. He would write everything he felt in the moment, but then put the letter aside, revisiting it later when his emotions had settled. Many of these letters were never sent because, after the pause, he often realized that responding in anger would be counterproductive. This ability to step back and resist reacting immediately allowed him to navigate the Civil War with wisdom and restraint, ultimately preserving the Union and changing history. The importance of practicing the pause cannot be overstated. It allows you to see things from a broader perspective, to detach from the heat of the moment, and to avoid actions you may later regret. Anger and frustration often cloud judgment, making people say or do things they wouldn't under calm circumstances. A pause offers the space to assess whether a reaction is necessary or if silence is the wiser course. It enables you to respond with clarity, logic, and emotional intelligence rather than with blind emotion. In personal relationships, it prevents unnecessary arguments. In professional settings, it fosters respect and maturity. In society, it reduces conflicts and promotes understanding. A man who can pause before responding is a man who controls his destiny. Imagine a scenario where someone hurls an insult at you, expecting an outburst. If you pause, breathe, and choose not to engage, You disarm them completely. Your lack of reaction frustrates them more than any argument could. You remain unshaken while they are left with the weight of their own negativity. That moment of pause grants you freedom. You are no longer a puppet to external forces, no longer shackled by the expectations of others. Instead, you dictate your own emotional state, standing firm in your inner peace. The next time anger rises, the next time frustration bubbles to the surface, remember that the pause is your greatest weapon. It is not weakness, it is strength. It is not passivity, it is mastery. It is the difference between being controlled and being in control. The world is filled with provocations, but none of them hold power unless we grant them permission. A pause is a small act, but its impact is profound. In that brief moment of stillness, we find clarity, wisdom, and a path forward that is free from regret. Number 2, observe without judgment. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Marcus Aurelius. The mind is a filter through which reality is shaped, colored by personal experiences, emotions, and biases. People rarely see things as they truly are. Instead, they see them through the lens of their own past, their fears, their desires. The practice of observing without judgment is the practice of seeing clearly, removing assumptions and personal interpretations, and experiencing things as they are, not as one wishes them to be. It is a skill that requires discipline, the ability to pause and watch without immediately attaching labels of good or bad, right or wrong. In this clarity, there is freedom. The freedom to navigate life without being constantly manipulated by personal biases or the opinions of others. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years. He had every reason to be consumed by bitterness and anger toward his captors. Yet, instead of allowing judgment to cloud his mind, he chose to observe his situation with detachment. He studied the men who imprisoned him, understood their fears, their beliefs, their motivations. By doing so, he freed himself mentally long before he was freed physically. When he emerged from prison, he did not seek revenge. He saw that hatred was merely another prison, and through observing without judgment, he chose reconciliation instead. This ability to separate observation from emotion allowed him to transform South Africa without drowning in the weight of resentment. Observing without judgment allows a person to respond to situations rather than react to them. A person who immediately labels something as good or bad becomes a prisoner of that judgment. If an event is deemed bad, they suffer unnecessarily. If an event is deemed good, they may become attached to it, fearing its loss. But life is fluid. What seems misfortune today may be the doorway to success tomorrow. What seems like a blessing may later reveal hidden burdens. The Stoics taught that true wisdom comes not from clinging to immediate perceptions, but from stepping back and observing with a neutral mind. This prevents unnecessary suffering and cultivates inner peace, a state where one is neither overly joyful nor overly sorrowful, but simply present, aware, and accepting of life as it unfolds. Imagine a heated argument where two people are shouting at each other, each convinced they are right. One person pauses, listens, and observes without rushing to defend themselves. In that moment of stillness, they see beyond the words. They recognize the other person's anger, their frustration, perhaps their pain. Instead of reacting in kind, they respond with calmness, breaking the cycle of hostility. This is the power of observing without judgment. It grants understanding where others see only conflict. It allows one to see through the noise and find the underlying truth. When a person no longer rushes to conclusions, they become immune to manipulation, to anger, to fear. They become steady, unshaken, untouchable by the chaos of the world. A mind that observes without judgment is a mind that remains at peace in any situation. It is a mind that does not rush to anger when insulted, does not spiral into despair when faced with hardship, does not become arrogant when praised. It is a mind that sees things clearly as they are and moves through the world with quiet confidence. This is true power, not control over others, but control over oneself. The ability to observe without judgment is not passive. It is the highest form of discipline, a mastery of the self. Those who possess it do not live in the illusions of fleeting emotions and biased perceptions. They live in reality, and in that reality, they are free. Number 3, detach from external noise. The world is loud, filled with voices, shouting for attention, opinions demanding agreement, and distractions pulling the mind in every direction. People are bombarded with news, social media debates, and the expectations of others, all of which create pressure and noise. Yet Stoicism teaches that this external chaos is powerless unless given permission to enter the mind. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that disturbance does not come from outside forces, but from the judgments placed upon them. The noise itself is neutral. It is only when a person assigns meaning to it that it becomes a source of suffering. Learning to detach from external noise is not about ignoring reality, but about filtering out what is unnecessary, what does not serve, and what is beyond control. Picture a man walking through a busy marketplace. Vendors shouting, people arguing, the air filled with conflicting sounds. He moves through it all without rushing, without reacting, unaffected by the urgency surrounding him. A group nearby argues about politics, voices rising in frustration, but he does not stop to engage. Another man insults him in passing, but he does not turn his head. He does not allow his peace to be dictated by the noise around him. This is the essence of detachment, not the absence of sound, but the refusal to let it take root in the mind. He knows that the noise belongs to others, not to him, and he carries on with quiet strength. The first step to handling external noise is to challenge the narrative being presented. When faced with gossip, criticism, or exaggerated claims, calmly ask, "Is that really true?" Or, "What makes you so certain?" This simple act forces both parties to examine the situation rather than react impulsively. Most external noise is fueled by unchecked assumptions, and a single question can break its power. Another strategy is to remain composed, maintaining steady breathing and measured speech. When emotions are kept in check, the noise loses its grip. A person who refuses to react emotionally gains control over the situation, while those who react impulsively become puppets of external forces. Refusing to engage in emotional responses is a silent but powerful tool. Imagine someone raising their voice, expecting a fight, expecting validation of their anger. If met with silence or a neutral response, their power dissolves. By choosing not to absorb the negativity, by letting it pass like wind through an open window, the disturbance is denied entry. External noise thrives on reaction. Without it, it fades into irrelevance. There is strength in choosing not to respond, in recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting, and that some words deserve no reply. Detachment from external noise is not about isolation, but about mastery over one's own mind. The world will always be filled with distractions, criticism, and opinions, but none of it has the power to disturb unless permission is granted. The Stoic does not run from the noise, nor do they fight against it. They simply let it pass, untouched, unaffected, and free. Number 4. Use silence as a response. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tried to provoke you, where every instinct in your body screamed for you to respond? A man once sat in a courtroom, falsely accused of corruption. The prosecution hurled accusations, the media twisted stories, and the public judged before the verdict. His lawyers advised him to fight back in the press, to defend himself at every turn, but he chose silence. He understood that words would only add fuel to the fire. Instead, he waited, let the noise die down, let the truth reveal itself. In the end, the evidence spoke louder than any defense he could have given. His silence had not been weakness. It had been strategy. If you can master the art of silence, you gain control over any situation. When people insult or provoke, they expect an emotional reaction. They thrive on it. Responding in anger only gives them power over you. But when you remain silent, they lose control. The discomfort of unreturned aggression often makes them reconsider their words. If a colleague criticizes your work unfairly in a meeting, instead of rushing to defend yourself, you can pause, meet their eyes, and say nothing. The weight of your silence forces them to rethink. Often, they will backtrack, soften their stance, or expose their own insecurity. Silence is not surrender, it is calculated strength. If you resist the urge to react immediately, you create space for clarity. Not every comment, argument, or insult requires your energy. When faced with conflict, pause and ask yourself, does this deserve my response? If a stranger yells at you in traffic, what do you gain by yelling back? If a social media post angers you, will engaging in an argument change anything? The ability to hold back words and choose silence is a sign of discipline. It allows you to observe without judgment, to see situations for what they are, rather than through the haze of emotion. If you can master this, you will rarely regret your response. If you stay silent in moments of tension, you give yourself time to think. People often regret the words they speak in anger, but they rarely regret the words they never said. If you are in a heated argument with a loved one, walking away in silence can prevent damage that cannot be undone. If a boss unfairly criticizes your performance rather than arguing, listening in silence can reveal more about their perspective than a defensive reply ever could. A well-placed silence can de-escalate conflict faster than 1,000 explanations. If you understand the power of silence, you will recognize that it is often the most powerful response of all. Silence forces others to reflect, to confront their own words, to feel the emptiness of their provocation. It is a lesson learned through hardship, through experience, through wisdom. If you can embrace silence when needed, you will hold a power few possess, the power to remain unshaken, unbothered, and in complete control of yourself. Number 5, embrace mindful listening. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This profound statement highlights the importance of mindful listening, an essential virtue that fosters understanding, wisdom, and self-control. In a world filled with noise, people often hear without truly listening, rushing to respond rather than absorbing what is being said. Stoicism teaches that true strength lies in restraint, in mastering one's impulses to react impulsively. By embracing mindful listening, one cultivates patience and gains deeper insights, not just into the words spoken, but into the emotions and perspectives of others. It is a skill that requires discipline, the ability to remain present, and the wisdom to recognize that listening is not merely about waiting for one's turn to speak, but about engaging with genuine curiosity and respect. During a tense meeting, a leader paused to listen while his team voiced their frustrations about a new policy. Instead of interrupting or dismissing their concerns, he maintained eye contact, nodded in acknowledgement, and took a moment before responding. This simple act of mindful listening diffused the tension and allowed for a more constructive discussion. Mindful listening is more than just hearing words. It is about being fully present, removing distractions, and demonstrating empathy. Often people listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand. This diminishes the quality of communication, leading to misunderstandings and conflicts. To truly listen mindfully, one must silence the inner dialogue, avoid formulating responses before the other person has finished speaking, and resist the urge to correct or judge. It requires self-awareness and the ability to remain grounded in the present moment. When you engage in mindful listening, you acknowledge the speaker's emotions, validate their experiences, and respond with clarity and thoughtfulness. In turn, this deepens relationships, builds trust, and fosters an environment where meaningful conversations can flourish. Mindful listening also strengthens emotional intelligence. The ability to tune into another person's emotions and intentions cultivates patience and compassion. It allows you to discern between what is being said and what remains unspoken, offering insight into the complexities of human interaction. The Stoic approach reminds us that we cannot control what others say, but we can control how we receive their words. By remaining composed and attentive, we not only gain a clearer understanding of others, but also reinforce our own resilience and wisdom. When you practice this, you become less reactive, more thoughtful in your responses, and ultimately more effective in your interactions. In embracing mindful listening, you embrace a deeper sense of connection with the world. It is not merely a communication skill, but a practice of humility and self-discipline. The more you listen, the more you learn, not just about others, but about ourselves. Stoicism teaches that wisdom is found in stillness, and through mindful listening, you develop the patience and clarity that guide you toward a more balanced, harmonious life. By listening twice as much as you speak, you cultivate not just better conversations, but a greater sense of wisdom and inner peace. Number 6. Channel your emotions into action. Ask yourself this question. When faced with strong emotions, do you let them control you, or do you use them as fuel for meaningful action? Emotions are powerful forces that can either paralyze you or propel you forward, depending on how you respond to them. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," emphasizing that emotions, if left unchecked, can distort your perception of challenges. However, when harnessed properly, emotions can be transformed into a source of strength, driving you to achieve, create, and persevere. Instead of allowing fear, anger, or frustration to consume you, you can channel them into productive action, using them as stepping stones toward growth and resilience. Anger can either lead to destructive outbursts or inspire meaningful change. Frustration can either leave you stuck or push you toward innovation. History is filled with examples of individuals who turned their emotions into action rather than succumbing to them. Consider a struggling writer who, after facing multiple rejections, used the pain of failure as motivation to refine their craft and ultimately publish a best-selling book. Rather than seeing setbacks as barriers, they transformed their emotions into fuel for perseverance. Picture this. A young athlete, devastated by a career-threatening injury, could have given up. Instead, they focused on recovery, training smarter, and mentoring others. The disappointment that could have broken them became the foundation for a greater purpose. To channel your emotions effectively, you must first acknowledge them without judgment. Suppressing emotions only leads to deeper internal conflict, while embracing them with awareness allows for intentional action. Stoicism teaches that external events are beyond your control, but your responses to them are entirely within your power. By reframing emotions as signals rather than obstacles, you can extract their lessons and transform them into purposeful movement. Fear can become caution, anger can become determination, and sadness can become a drive for change. This shift in mindset not only empowers you to take control of your emotional state, but also fosters resilience in the face of adversity. Mastering the art of channeling emotions into action requires practice, patience, and self-discipline. It is about recognizing that emotions are not your enemies, but rather raw energy that can be shaped into something constructive. The greatest achievements often emerge from deep emotional experiences, whether it be heartbreak, failure, or frustration. By embracing this philosophy, you turn obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into stepping stones, and emotions into a driving force for action. In the end, what defines you is not the emotions you feel, but how you choose to respond to them. Number 7. Cultivate inner stillness. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded marketplace, surrounded by noise and chaos, yet feeling completely calm inside. While the world moves in frantic motion, you remain steady, unshaken by distractions. This is the essence of inner stillness, finding peace within yourself, regardless of external circumstances. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." True strength comes not from controlling the outside world, but from mastering your own mind. In a society that demands constant reaction, learning to cultivate inner stillness is a radical act of self-discipline and wisdom. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, faced immense personal and political challenges, but remained composed through inner stillness. After losing both his mother and wife on the same day, he retreated into nature, reflecting and rebuilding his strength. Instead of allowing grief to consume him, he returned stronger, channeling his pain into public service. As a leader, he maintained clarity in crises, whether negotiating peace or facing political opposition. His ability to remain calm under pressure, focus on solutions, and act decisively proved that true strength comes from mastering one's inner world, not external circumstances. Stillness is not about inaction, it is about clarity. When you slow down and silence the mental noise, you gain the ability to respond rather than react. It allows you to see situations as they truly are, free from emotional turbulence. This kind of self-mastery is essential in decision-making, relationships, and personal growth. When you cultivate inner stillness, you develop patience, resilience, and the ability to navigate challenges with a calm and collected mind. The world constantly demands your attention, but real wisdom comes when you learn to pause, breathe, and think before acting. To achieve inner stillness, you must first recognize that peace is an internal choice, not an external condition. Many people believe that happiness comes from success, wealth, or recognition, but the truth is that contentment comes from within. When you detach yourself from the need to control everything, you free yourself from stress and anxiety. Meditation, journaling, and moments of solitude can help you develop this practice. By focusing on what is within your control, your thoughts, your reactions, and your mindset, you create a foundation of inner peace that remains unshaken no matter what life throws at you. Cultivating inner stillness is a lifelong practice. It requires patience and conscious effort, but the rewards are immense. In stillness, you find wisdom. In wisdom, you find strength. When you embrace this philosophy, you become the calm in the storm, the steady hand in the chaos. The world will always be noisy, but the greatest power lies in your ability to remain still within it. Number 8. Set boundaries with your energy. The more you value things outside your control, the less control you have. Marcus Aurelius. Energy is one of the most valuable resources a person possesses, yet it is often squandered on people, situations, and emotions that do not serve a higher purpose. Setting boundaries with your energy is not about shutting people out. It is about deciding where your attention and effort are best spent. Many allow their peace to be disrupted by external chaos, absorbing negativity, engaging in unnecessary conflicts, or constantly giving without replenishing themselves. But true strength lies in knowing when to say no, when to walk away, and when to protect the inner sanctuary of the mind. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, attributes much of his success to his ability to say no. Despite the endless opportunities and demands for his time, he is known for carefully guarding his energy. He once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." This discipline allows him to focus only on what truly matters, rather than scattering his energy on distractions. His ability to set boundaries has been crucial in maintaining clarity, productivity, and peace of mind. To set boundaries with your energy, you must first recognize what drains you. Not all conversations, relationships, or responsibilities deserve your time. Some people thrive on conflict, some demand constant attention, and some take without giving. Learning to identify these energy leaks is the first step toward reclaiming control. This is not about being cold or unkind, it is about self-preservation. Saying no to the wrong things allows you to say yes to what truly aligns with your purpose. It is also important to be intentional about where your energy flows. Stoicism teaches that external events are beyond our control, but our response is within our power. Wasting energy on what cannot be changed, whether it is the opinions of others, past mistakes, or imagined fears, only leads to frustration. Instead, the focus should be on things that bring growth, fulfillment, and inner peace. A well-placed boundary is not a wall but a filter, allowing in what nourishes and keeping out what drains. Mastering this practice brings a sense of calm and control. When energy is protected, clarity emerges, decisions become sharper, and life becomes more purposeful. Not every battle is worth fighting, not every request must be met with a yes, and not every problem deserves attention. In the end, setting boundaries with your energy is an act of self-respect. It is the realization that your inner peace is too valuable to be compromised by the noise of the world. Mastering your emotions isn't about suppressing them, it's about understanding them, controlling them, and knowing when silence speaks louder than words. The strongest people don't react to everything, they choose when to engage and when to let go. They don't waste energy proving a point, they let their presence and actions speak for them. True emotional mastery is the ability to remain calm in chaos, to hold your peace when others lose theirs, and to influence without force. Now it's your turn. The next time you feel the urge to react impulsively, pause. Observe. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? Will my silence be more powerful than my words? Let this practice become your strength. If this video resonated with you, don't just watch, act. Start applying these principles today. Like this video if you found value in it, subscribe for more wisdom, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. The journey to mastering your emotions begins with awareness, and it starts now. So step into your power, embrace the quiet, and let your silence command the respect and presence that words never could.